I call this meeting to order, 2:05. The Hawaii Board on Geographic Names on this day, May 7th. First on the agenda is a roll call. I'll begin. Marcus Marzan, representing Bishop Museum.
Meyer Cummins, State Land Survey Division.
Keith Gutierrez, Office of Foreign Affairs.
And I'm Arthur Buto, representing Mary Alice Evans from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Okay, and I think that's all the members we have.
All the members, yes. On the agenda, we'll be reviewing and approving of meeting minutes of April 2nd.
I hope you all had an opportunity to look through the minutes. The testimony, the people that spoke during the discussion about the island of Hawaii, not quite verbatim, but I tried to capture as closely as I could the sense of what they were saying. So as much as you can, I'd like you to take a look at that and make sure that that's your recollection as well. And of course, the recording is still will stay on the website.
Yeah, Arthur, I had a chance to look at it. I thought you did a really good job. And it's a lot of work. So thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Arthur. I too had a moment to review the minutes as drafted, and yeah, I think you did a really good job in capturing the sentiments that were shared.
Agreed. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
All right, can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, it was moved by Meyer, seconded by Keith. Any other comments or edits at this time? All right, hearing none. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have public comments.
I did receive one email this morning or this afternoon. So I included that. It's on the website. So you're gonna have to go to the website if you want to look at it. Let me see if I can share my screen. Again, I'm by myself. I'm sorry if I'm gonna use my second computer. But they were asking if we would consider looking at it's going to be too hard. If we would consider looking at Kipapa Gulch. Look at the name Kipapa Gulch, because it's, not a gulch as they understand it. They'd rather see valley. I think our tendency here has been just to remove that English descriptor.
Yes.
And in fact, when I looked it up in the GNIS, and again, I apologize for not sharing my screen, but when I look it up in the GNIS, it just says Kipapa. It doesn't have a descriptor by it. So following our style, our guidelines, we would not change that. Yeah. So I have not replied to him yet, but I will reply with that. Unless members of
classification for that is a gulch or a valley.
I don't remember.
But the official name is just Kipapa.
Kipapa. There is a Kipapa stream, separately. It's a stream. So unless members want to take it up, put it on the agenda for the next meeting, I'll reply to them that our style has been to remove that English descriptor, and there is no English descriptor for that.
Official name,
This-
officially, yeah. Okay. Is there anything else under public comments at this time?
Marcus,
Yes, Bobby.
I'm looking at Keep Up a Stream, and it looks like that is what people call Keep Up a Gulch. And so there are on Oahu two things. One is a canal that's Kipapa without the macron, and then the other one is a stream with the macron. So it may be that depending on the details that show up on the form, you may have to submit a change to delete the word stream. And that's for ID or feature number 361265.
I'll look for that information, Bobby.
Yeah, it's in that's how it's listed in GNIS.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I don't think we've, you know, I said we've been removing the English descriptor. I don't know that we've been doing that for streams and rivers. I recall that we renamed Iao Stream Wailuku River, and I think I don't know if that was to reduce confusion with other things that are called Wailuku, or if that was our general practice, but I don't recall. Does anybody else?
Well, I recall in that instance for the Wailuku River that it was identified as Wailuku River from the historic documents. Yeah, it wasn't just called Wailuku. It was identified as Wailuku River. So I think with the community wanting to revert it back to that original reference point was, I think what we just followed their recommendation of what they wanted it to be returned to. So, but like there's the other example of Oheo, right? The sacred pools of Oheo that we just turned it to Oheo. So removing those other markers. But yeah, I understand your comment, Arthur, about being kind of inconsistent on removing or not of the English terms, depending on the different scenarios.
Yeah, and we were having a conversation with Jenny about it too, because from a mapping standpoint, and particularly as a surveyor, we want to kind of include the feature in the map so it's clear what we're talking about. You know, local people might know the name of this feature. It's a stream, but the name doesn't have stream in it. But for other people who use the map, they might want it. So I think we had a back and forth about having the feature in sort of parentheses after the main name to clarify for map users. But I don't ever think we came down solidly on how to deal with that. But that's what I remember from the conversation.
All right. Okay.
Chair?
Yes. Yes,
I think
Bob.
it might be worthwhile for the board to have a discussion about, you know, all the feature classes as they relate to all place names, because this is all islands, right? It's not just Kipapa or
Correct.
or Wailuku or whatever. And it may be you know, if we're returning to Native Hawaiian sensibilities, it may be that you could somehow research, and I'm not in a position to do this. Maybe Kapa or Lillian might be helpful in this. Looking at old newspapers, how did they refer to streams and ridges and mountains? You know, was it a kalavai? Was it a vava? You know, how did that work? And it may be interesting if there were a proposal just to use the Hawaiian, the Olelo Hawaii descriptor for all of these things. And then, you know, educate the public on them. You know, like now they have on the GNIS site, they have a glossary of what all of these feature classes mean. And they could easily, and have, I think, added Hawaiian language feature classes.
I don't think they've added Hawaiian language feature classes. I think they've changed the spellings of the features themselves to reflect the Hawaiian spelling. But if I look through those feature classes, and there are probably, I don't know,
50
3 dozen or 4 dozen of them.
Yeah.
And of course, not all of them apply to Hawaii, but they're I don't recall seeing any Hawaiian specific ones. You know, they do have things like lava or crater, but
yeah.
not like pu'u or kipuka.
Is Jenny on the call?
No, she's not available today.
Okay. So that would be something for you folks to consider, you know, just kind of double check and look at that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, so with that, maybe we can just for next meeting, we can just put that on the agenda as something we can discuss for regarding all the feature classes and how to identify those things in a more consistent way.
Yeah, I like that idea. Usually when I'm going through granting documents or land commission awards, et cetera, they usually refer to it as being, you know, kahavai o or avava o. So there are, you know, naming, regular naming ways they go about doing this in the documentation. So it would be worth looking into it instead of just having the name, because even in the new paper and old, again, grant documents, they do refer to these features as a feature with a name versus just the name. So I think it's worthy to look into.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for all of that. Maybe we could move on to the next agenda item, I think, and that would be an announcements. Do we have any announcements at this time, Arthur?
I don't have any.
Okay. Any other board members?
I wanted to make a quick announcement.
Yes.
So I was just notified from my administration. We've been going through some restructuring lately, and so we've kind of moved some functions that used to be in my department, added some other ones, and kind of continuing to restructure. But as a part of this effort, we're going to be moving forward with naming a new OHA designee to the Board of Geographic name. So I'm not certain if this is my last meeting, but I did want to mahalo you folks for allowing me to serve with you guys. I've learned a lot, you know, about the board, the process, and I'll be working internally to, you know, once our administration names the representative designee for OHA, to process the paperwork with Art and our side to make that transition happen. So I'll be in touch as far as I hear on our end and how that'll coincide with, you know, the standing meetings. But I'm expecting, you know, there's kind of two candidates kind of floating around right now, and so with either person, the board will be in good hands with the OHA designee. So just wanted to put that into your folks' attention, and mahalo you folks for my time serving alongside of you guys.
Well, mahalo, Keith, for sharing that. We will definitely miss your presence here, and thank you so much for sharing all of your time and energy in supporting the board in this way. But yeah, definitely. I'm glad to know that you have a couple of candidates that you think will be great on your end to help push us forward in our duties as the Board of Geographic Names. So mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo, Keith. We just got to know you, man. And now you're out.
I know, we're just getting going too, right? But yeah, some of the changes we're doing, it just makes sense with kind of how we're going to be situated, and so I'll still probably be connected in some capacity. But as far as like the formal designee, we will be making a change. So yeah, thanks, guys.
Gotcha. We'll miss you, Keith.
Okay. There's any other announcements at this point? Yes, so hearing no others, we can move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 5, discussion and decision of establishing a permitted interaction group to research the name of island of Hawaii. So I know we don't have all of our board designees present at this meeting. We do have a quorum, but how would you like to discuss?
So I'm the one that asked to put this on the agenda, and the reason is that recalling the PIG with Fisher 8, Ahu'aila'au, I think it was very helpful, especially given the level of interest that we saw at the last meeting, in order to engage with the community better and maybe in the community itself. As you know, this board doesn't have a budget, certainly doesn't have a travel budget, but the PIG for Ahu'aila'au allowed some of the board members to tap into their own funds to actually travel to Puna and have some interactions with the community, have some meetings out in the community. I think there's an opportunity here to do that as well, and that might be a better way to engage the residents of the island itself, the community, and not restricted or not held to just a once a month kind of interaction. The PIG, as you know, could schedule its own meetings on its own time. It just seemed to be with the level of interest and the kinds of input we got, that engaging with the community on a more personal level might be more fruitful, productive, and you might get some engagement with people that are not maybe tech savvy, that are not able to join us by Zoom. So that was my thought behind the PIG, the Permitted Interaction Group. Alternatively, we can continue to have this on the agenda at our monthly meeting. But I thought that a Permitted Interaction Group might be a better vehicle, or a good vehicle, for more community engagement. So I attached in the board packet some information about the Permitted Interaction Group. It's been a while since we did it. It was what, 3 or 4 years ago that we did it. But the restrictions on our board are that we can have as many members, less than a quorum, on the board, and we can also have some of our cultural resources in the Permitted Interaction Group as well. and they are free to schedule their own meetings at some point. So one of the things we'd want to do is identify who those members from the board are, who our community members are. And of course, the PIG itself can consult with other resources in the community, as well as hold their own meetings. At some point, they'll report back to the board with their recommendations, and then after that, at a separate meeting, the board will vote on their recommendations, or essentially make a decision on this matter.
Yeah. So Arthur, am I correct that with our board structure, the permitted interaction group would consist of at maximum 3 board members? And then what are other external consultants or people that we work with that we choose, but 3 board members being on the consisting part of this permitted interaction group?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I would recommend Kapa on there, be a member as one of the initial members to bring this particular issue to our attention. I know she's not here, but
Yeah.
it's great. We're gonna do we just name all the people that aren't here to be on the board.
I second that.
Yeah.
I think Kapal would be great. Liliane would be
Yeah.
great. And they kind of got the conversation going too. So I think they have a strong interest in it as well, as does the community. So I think it'd be
Yes.
good. But they're not here. So maybe for the next meeting to get that ball rolling, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, I would like to have them present to accept the position versus being voluntold that they would be a part of this particular group. So hopefully they can join us next the next meeting where we can make that decision. But yeah, I really support the idea of having a permitted interaction group so that more conversations can take place within the community and in different channels that can really give perspective and insights on this matter. Yes, Bobby.
A comment, or maybe a couple of comments. The meeting last time, many of the people participating and commenting, even in the chat room, or especially in the chat room, were extremely emotional. And I think that's because nobody understood what the topic was really about. They heard it on the news the night before. Everybody sent out social media posts. Everybody got agitated and signed in to attend the meeting. And I think it might be similar to the bill that was introduced in this last session to add an Okina to Hawaii on the state seal. And there was a pretty vociferous outcry from Ni'ihau people saying that they didn't want that. And so rather than extending the discussion, no decision was reached. So I'm wondering if the PIG can also include state of Hawaii and that issue, because they all seem to be very, very closely related. Not that we're going to change the name of state of Hawaii, but adding that Okina to Hawaii would be an important thing to accomplish. And it's like everybody's kind of working in their separate places. and people don't understand kuleana. You know, the Hawaii board does what, the US board does what, the public can make input to what. And I think the end result might be a better understanding by the public on the works of the Hawaii board and its relationship to the US board.
Thank you for that. Arthur, could you, do you think that would be something possible to have, or that's a separate thing that would need, that would be appropriate to have another group address that?
Yeah, if you're asking my opinion, I think that would be a separate. One of the things that we need to do when we establish this PIG is clearly define its mission or its goal or its objective. So it could include a couple of objectives if that's what we want. But I think that would make it more difficult.
Yeah.
For this particular issue, you know, to add a broader issue or a different issue that may have different proponents or opponents. It could certainly be a different PIG.
Yeah. Arthur, from my recollection,
that's my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. From my recollection regarding the addition of Onokina into the state name, is that something that the state can do, or is that something that is out above us and that requires congressional kind of decision making?
That's a good point. And this is, I don't think that's quite what Bobby was getting at, but yes, changing the spelling of the name of the state or essentially changing the name of the state is not the board's kuleana. That is something that requires a constitutional amendment or some congressional action. And I think I brought this up before, but the state of Rhode Island went through the same kind of discussion not too long ago. And in 2020, its official name before in the early 2020s or up to the early 2020s was Rhode Island and the Providence Plantations. But of course, everybody knows it as Rhode Island. And so they talked about changing the name of the state. They concluded that they needed a constitutional amendment to do so. They brought it to their voters in 2020. It was rejected. And then after, I think it was, there were some, it was probably George Floyd or somewhere around that time period, with that public sentiment coming out, that they considered it again and it did pass. So now their official state name is Rhode Island. I looked it up, or I Googled it to the best of my ability. I didn't actually reach out to the state folks, but I didn't see any action at the congressional level, at the US congressional level. So it might just be something that we need to do at the state level, you know, amend the Constitution to include an Okina if that's the intention in the name of the state. But of course, as Bobby pointed out, there's a lot of there's significant opposition to that as well. But a slightly different issue, I think, than what Bobby's talking about, adding an Okina in the state seal.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me, though, if the group is going to go out there, and it is our kuleana to sort of find out what the name of a feature is and how is it spelled. If the group's going to ask, what's the name of Hawaii Island or the island of Hawaii and how is it spelled, I think the conversation naturally includes, are we going to put an Okina in this? So I think we can craft the mission of the PIG to include all of that, as long as we don't make it too complicated. So I'm willing to have that conversation. I just don't, I don't see it as two conversations per se, if it's just about what HBGN, what name HBGN uses and how it's spelled. But and the other side of that is that if we get feedback from the community that promotes inserting the Okina, that can tell the legislatures that the population wants to put the Okina in there. And if the legislature's on board and we amend it at the state level, then that can tell the national level, hey, the state's serious about this. Let's put the Okina in the name. So I think this is an opportunity just to sort of feel out the people of Hawaii and see what they think.
Well, yeah. So hopefully we can continue this discussion further next month when we have, if not all the other remaining board members not present here, so that we can have a fuller discussion and get support and actually nominate and build the permitted interaction group with people's consent. So yeah, we'll continue the conversation on this, I think, this topic at next month's meeting. But yeah, I think this is a great push forward in how we move, and really kind of do what I think what we've always tried to live by as board members, to listen to community and to get all of the support and really do things to uplift the history of places, historic names and communities alongside the living peoples of those places, so that we can really tell the stories of Hawaii in the best possible light. So yeah, mahalo for all of that. Any other members in the room would have something to say? Bobby, you would...
I hope I'm not monopolizing the conversation.
No.
I think it's important. I'd like to suggest that the board during the PIG process come up with a really well-reasoned document for whatever decision is reached. I think most often the loudest voices win, and the loudest voices may not necessarily be the most accurate. And so, to try and include the benefit or the input of people who are less prone to contribute, or people who might be afraid to speak out, I think it's if everything is explained and reasoned, number one, 1978 Ahui Olelo guidelines laid this out, pretty much before there were many Hawaiian language classes, and just worked down and through the history. And I think Meyer was right in his summary. It has to go through the state, and then Congress needs to have a bill to change the spelling from the congressional end also, because that's where federal agencies follow. They just kind of follow the guidelines of Hawaii without an opinion right now. I hope that made a little bit of sense.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
I just want to be clear that the PIG itself does not make a decision. It's going to submit a report of its findings and recommendations to the full board.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other others present in the meeting? wishing to share a little bit at this time? If not, we'll continue on. The next thing on our agenda, and which will be discussion and decision on select featured names on the island of Hawaii.
Chair, I
Yes.
kind of want to revisit Aimu'u quickly. I found a map showing the spelling of Aimu'u Gulch on
Okay.
registered map 2252.
Sorry, Meyer, that's coming up. That's
Oh,
Oahu.
sorry. Apologies.
So, Bobby, at the last meeting, you indicated that the Kapuna group from the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park was going to meet and maybe discuss Luapaholo. Did they have an opportunity to do that?
Yes, they met, and what we're going to do is submit a list of names, and Luapaholo is on that list. And also on that list are the crater names. And this is kind of following the discussion that you folks had about Kipapa and the stream. So I think the national park is bureaucratically a lot smaller than state agencies. And for us to educate people in using the feature class pit crater in Hawaiian in front of the name, rather than having Luapaholo or A, and then insert the name. Because the crater names along the chain are I'm pretty sure that most of them are unique. They're not tied to other geographies in the area. So when we talk about Makaupuhi, or we talk about Pauahi, or we talk about Puhimau, at least for people in Volcano, they know that it is its own thing and it is a crater. So yeah, the park has a few months to go to assemble packets and stuff. So that was a long answer to yes, we're still considering it and we're not going to submit it yet.
Okay.
But thank you.
Any chance they'll do it in batches rather than one long
Is it
list?
better to do it in batches? What do you folks desire?
I mean, if we go in batches, we can get started sooner rather than later. So I'm not opposed to batches if they're okay with it. But either way, whatever they're comfortable with.
Okay. Yeah, because some of the names on the list that we're submitting are quote unquote new names. Some are, simply deleting crater. Others are just concatenating and adding diacritics. So it should be okay. I'll suggest to the park that we submit in batches, and that may make everybody there happier too. Thanks for the suggestion.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. With that, we can move on to the next.
Almost.
Oh, almost.
So Bobby sent us information about Mizota's Kipuka or Kipuka Mizota's.
Yes.
I just thought it was odd, so I asked Bobby if we need to make a name change, because the official name right now is Kipuka Mizotas, and Mizotas seem to be possessive.
Right.
And so I don't know how we want to do that. And plus, Mizota that's a person, right? I mean, that it was named after a particular individual. So I wanted to raise that here to see if we wanted to do a name change and what that should be.
I think if you look at the naming protocols, you can't name something after a person, maybe. I might be wrong.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Let's see. I'm going to look it up right now. Hawaiʻi board. Da, 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 da.
And another question might be, was there an older name for this kipuka?
Yeah, we couldn't find anything. Geographic names, one word, modifiers. The D.
Yeah, the pohaku okane.
Yeah, so in rare circumstances, when a single and specific geographic feature is specially named after an individual, the proper noun shall be written separately from the geographic feature. So it seems like it should be Kipuka Mizota. Following this guideline.
Would it
Guideline.
be kipuka o mizota? Or am I misreading that?
I will let you guys. Well, there's Kipuka Kapa'u. I don't know who Kapa'u is.
I don't know that either. Yeah.
What
are your thoughts, Marcus?
I think, from a Hawaiian language speaking kind of point of view, both make sense. Kipuka, like in this instance, Kipuka Mizota would be basically the same thing as Kipuka o Mizota. It's just more separations.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be adding things if they're unnecessary. So maybe just, what Bobby said, Kipuka Mizota is probably, if it, again, my little Hawaii is crap. So, but I go with you. But yeah, if the naming guideline permits it and we don't have to insert anything, then I'm fine with it like that.
I think when you add an O or an A, it denotes agency of the person, and so Kane, who is Kane, that rock belonged to him before. I mean, and now with Kipuka Mizota, you're just kind of doing a commemorative name.
Yeah.
Because Mizota didn't have anything to do with the formation of the Kipuka.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, in the case of using O, depends on if it has an okina or not. So makes a big difference. Kipuka of Kane or Kane. The Kipuka's name is Kane, is not. So yeah, but in this instance, it has both Hawaiian and non-Hawaiian name, so it'll be just we'll address that when we come to it.
So I'm going to ask you, Bobby, do you want to do a name change form?
Sure,
and you don't have to. You've provided us a lot of information. We can copy.
If you guys can do it in house, that'd be great. And I can I'm happy to work with whoever does it
Okay.
and
I'm by
provide.
myself. I'm by myself, so I will ask you for help.
Okay. And the resource person, just for your notes now, is Kona Historical Society. And the woman there is Ku'ulani, Kuulani, Auld, Auld. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk with you about this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does that conclude agenda item 6 discussion?
Yes.
No? Okay. Can continue on. Item 7 discussion on and decisions on select featured names on Oahu.
Okay, sorry for jumping ahead on that one.
No, all good.
Yeah, so registered map, what did I have? 2252 shows Aimu'u Gulch, just spelled the way we've got it there. As with most of our maps, no Okina, no Kako. But at least it does share the same spelling. Let me see. 2252.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, give me just a second while I pull it up.
Okay.
2252. Okay. Then I can share screen. Hold on. Let me get the name first, so you're not watching me do stuff. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna share.
And this is one where I think we'd have to talk about removing Gulch.
Yeah, it's listed. Can you guys see this screen here?
Not
No.
yet.
No,
Not yet.
no. It's this one. Here, share. Sorry, apologies. Can you see the screen now?
It's starting.
It's loading.
Okay.
There we
There.
go.
Okay, there you go. So here, Aimu'u Gulch here. So yeah. Again, I'm not opposed to getting rid of the feature from the name specifically, as long as it's I like the idea of putting in parentheses, because then we're acknowledging that the gulch is named Aimu'u, and we're just telling you what feature it is, so it's easy to identify on a map. But
And the feature class is Valley.
okay, so it would be Avava or Aimu'u or something like that. This was done in, sorry, I'm going to go fast. What year is this? 1904. And I've gone through all of our other maps in this area, and this is the only one that shows this specific area. There's a field book here. I might pull that out and see if there's additional references to the gulch. But yeah, that's the only map I could find showing Aimu'u.
Maya, could you zoom out just so I could
I can,
see
yeah, of course.
specifically
Sure.
where it is?
Here we go. So here's a beach. Aimu'u
Okay.
Gulch is listed a little bit Mauka. It's a branch off of Paumalu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here's Paumalu here proper, and Paumalu goes all the way down. But
Yeah.
Aimu'u fingers off to the, what is that? The south
That's on the,
direction.
okay.
Yeah. Right there. And this is the Paumalu homesteads near Pupukia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And sorry, Meyer.
Yeah.
To correct you in front of everybody.
Let's do it.
It's Paumalu.
Paumalu. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Paumalu.
Paumalu. It's the problem with not having kahakos and nobody teaching me a little Hawaiʻi.
Exactly. Well, don't beat yourself up about that too much. I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thanks. I won't keep myself up at night about it. All right, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Okay.
That's the only one I got from the batch. I mean, other than Punch Bowl, obviously, we got tons of maps discussing Punch Bowl, but yeah, and Diamond Head for that matter.
And it's my fault. I forgot to ask Puakan Nogelmeyer for his
Oh yeah.
Punch Bowl research. Actually, I did ask. I didn't hear back, so I'll ask. I'll remind him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with Myers information or with the registered map, do we want to do anything at this time for that feature?
Well, I'm not opposed to putting an Okina between the two U's. But otherwise, I think that's probably the only change.
I think we'd have to know, it's come up before, but I think we'd have to know a little bit more about where Aimu'u comes from to understand, even if it's obvious, you know, to add those diacriticals.
Gotcha.
Yeah, on that topic, I wanted to add, I found something talking about pu'u aimu'u, so an okina before the I, and then between the two u's and mu'u. So I want to look into it a little bit more. I didn't have a chance to chase it too far down.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I saw some references to aimu'u stream as well as aimu'u, pu'u aimu'u. So just a thread to kind of just keep pulling on. Nothing, I think, to help determine if we do add, would it be in both places, or we just keep it as aimu'u as written.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Keith.
Because even as just a term, like Keith was saying, just as the terms, if you were to separate themselves, like ai and mu'u, you know, if you were to put the two words that makes the most sense together, it would be ai with the okina and mu'u with an okina in between the two u's. Those would be the most obvious of the two choices for if you were to break up the name into those two different words. But yeah, definitely, it would be cool to see more if there's a little bit more understanding from the mo'olelo in those with the pu'u and the stream references. Yeah, so mahalo, Keith. Okay, so I guess we'll just keep this on the books for next time with more research to come. Is there another place where would we be on this last list at this time, Arthur?
Let's see, these are Oahu. So the next one on the Oahu names is Alapena Pool. Or has anybody found anything on the remaining names, 2, 4, 6 names?
I have not, but I can dig around a little bit more and see. We have a whole section of miscellaneous maps that I can check through as well. They're not as well indexed, but I'll check through those.
For Alapena, I couldn't find any alternate spellings, but I did want to look into a couple of the rest of the names a little more deeper, particularly Ani Ani Nui and then Api Spring. So I think keeping them on the list will allow us to just keep pushing.
Yeah, I also don't have anything else to add at this time.
So are there any names that we've exhausted our resources for? And actually, so all these names, I don't know if it's coincidental, but they all have those English descriptors: pool, gulch, well, except Pali,
Ali, yeah.
Ridge, Spring, Gulch. So I think that's probably gonna be a topic we want to talk about and be consistent about.
Okay.
So maybe did we already say we should add that to our next?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
Bobby
we
suggested
did.
that we add that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll leave those names on this list, and maybe we can come back. And if there are no other resources to look at for those names, we can at least maybe do that, remove or
Yeah.
leave in.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, yeah, no, that's all that I had. There's more to this spreadsheet, as you know, but I only trying to take these little bites at a time.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Arthur, for that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot easier to attack in these small bits when it's a really long sheet, and it's hard to really nail down or drill down and find every bit of detail for each name as you go through it. You're kind of just trying to scatter shot and pick up the easy stuff first. So I prefer this. So thanks, Arthur.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have then on the agenda.
Okay.
Just before you adjourn, because I think that's the next order of business.
Yeah.
I just want to review or reiterate maybe about what will be on our next agenda. One is we're going to take a look at those descriptors. We will continue the discussion about a PIG for Island of Hawaiʻi. And Bobby, I'm going to take the Island of Hawaiʻi names off. Is that?
Yes, that's fine.
Back with your, okay. And then we'll just wait for the park to come back with its lists.
Yeah, well, under public comment next time, I can report on the Havo names
Oh, okay.
and the batches idea.
Okay. And I will, so does the board prefer that I move on to the next 10 Oahu names? And we just keep these as threes? Or should we come back and revisit these names? Bobby, you might have a chance to talk to
Okay.
Puakea.
Yeah. I'd like a little more time with the names, if you don't mind, Arthur, with these ones that we've got here.
I was going to say the same. Yeah, if possible.
Okay.
I think
So
for the
we'll
continuity.
revisit these names?
Yes,
Please.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can pass these names on to the potential OHA designees to kind of get a head start and kind of transition them with these in mind. So that'll help too as well. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate what you're doing. That's
Yes. Thank you.
already. Thank you. And you're always welcome,
Just come back, Keith. It's okay.
Keep that in mind. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We've got regular scheduled meetings, so you know when we'll be.
That's right. And Zoom makes it easy.
Easy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes our agenda. Is there anything else? I think. So the next scheduled board meeting is June 4th, the first Tuesday in June 4th.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Thank you all for attendance, and have a great rest of your day.
Mahalo, everybody.
Hello.
Right on. Take care, everybody. Aloha.
Aloha, guys.
Aloha.
Take care, Keith.